Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to the third of the four-part health and wellness webinars from the ICBE Aviation SkillNet. Today I presented once again high performance and executive coaches Jason Kennedy and Declan Dorr from KB Corporate Wellness. Jason is a fitness and nutrition specialist, sports psychology coach, and has a degree in training and education. He's an active competitor, having represented Ireland abroad, winning several world, European, and Irish titles. He's also a martial arts instructor with over 30 years experience. Declan is an inspirational trainer and executive coach. Having recovered from a life-threatening brain injury where he was told he would possibly never walk, talk, or get use of his face back again, Declan now teaches tools for mental wellness to survive and thrive in both your personal and work lives. Today's topic area is the art of self-mastery. Using techniques adapted from the Japanese samurai warriors, this session will guide us through the process of removing the walls and chaos that appear in front of us and focusing on our ultimate goal. Ground rules for today: Jason and Declan will present for approximately 20 minutes, finishing up in a 10-minute Q&A. Everyone is muted, but we really do encourage you to supply questions or comments via the chat function, which we'll call out at the end of the presentation. If you encounter problems with broadband, please just bear with us, and we may need to turn off cameras. This session is being recorded, and without further delay, I'll pass you over to Jason and Declan.
Thank you very much, Owen, and thank you everyone joining the call. I'm not claiming by any means that we are masters of our own lives, but we try and we strive to be. What this is an interesting topic, I suppose, and why this is an interesting topic is because of the in-depth you can go into it and how deep I suppose this topic really is. And just even from the very first one, Miyamoto Musashi is one of the most famous Japanese warrior samurai. And he would have written a book, The Five Rings, that is very, very famous. And many businesses across the world, sporting industries have used this. Now, it was based on battle and his whole philosophy around battle and how he dealt with things. But what was quite interesting about this character was that he was very unorthodox and it didn't live by the way of the Japanese and the Japanese culture of the time. So he was considered a Ronin, which would have meant he wouldn't have had any lord to follow. He kind of did as he felt. As a result, he kind of pioneered the way forward in many aspects of, obviously in his case, it was a fighting system. But to him to write this book, what he wrote it in, I suppose, the ideal of being able to amalgamate not just fighting techniques and so on and so forth, but rather around balancing your life and aligning things to your life to be able to move forward. So it's very interesting character, well worth a look, and there's a great documentary done by National Geographic. I think there's a guy called Mark Dacascos does it, and it tells an awful lot about his story and a very intriguing character. So I think one of the biggest things and one of the biggest issues with a lot of this stuff is that we spend a lot of our own time in our own way. So trying to get out of our own way is something, I suppose, has been thrown around the industry for many years. But it is certainly something that is really prevalent, especially in self-mastery. We spend a lot of our time eating up our own thoughts, our own emotions, and we spend a lot of time procrastinating about different things instead of moving forward and living in the now and worrying about the past and the future.
And continuous improvement is a big part of self-mastery. And self-mastery can be defined as self-control, the ability to exert a strong will against our impulses, to head into our future of our choosing. And it's a commitment to never-ending improvement. So when you think about it, it's all about looking within your own self and seeing what you can improve within yourself, because when you control what's going on within yourself, that has a massive impact on the external world.
Yeah, I suppose, again, it comes back to this whole thing around the imposter syndrome. And again, it's something that's quite not so much new, but it's quite prevalent at the moment, and I'm hearing it on a regular basis now. So I think it's quite applicable to today's conversation. And I suppose we do have a tendency to self-criticize, and we spend a lot of time in fear of what it is we're trying to achieve. And we have a tendency then to stop ourselves moving forward. And I've been guilty of it. I know, certainly, if speaking on my own behalf, uncertain about certain things, and not been able to, I suppose, allow myself that freedom just to move forward and go with the flow and keep myself in that state of flow. So I think for all of us, we have to be conscious of the fact that even though we're doing a job, sometimes we can feel going, oh God, I'm going to get caught out here. I don't think I'm really good at this. And that is an awful voice to have in your head, and we need to be very conscious of that. And myself and Dec were both at a talk, and we heard 2 or 3 rugby players, top end players, and speaking about this, and it blew our minds, because we were going, wow, like, not to name them, but they were saying that essentially, you know, they felt they were waiting to be caught out at any time, going, I shouldn't be here on this pitch, I shouldn't be playing for Ireland. And it was amazing to hear him talk about this, and the fear that they had in themselves. And like, only job that they had to do at the time, I remember him saying, it was to catch the ball, and he was fearful of the fact that he wasn't going to be able to catch it, even though he caught it 1 billion times before, and then said, I'm going to get caught out sooner or later. But it's amazing to hear it, and it's amazing we all do it. So just be cognizant of that as well.
Actually, as you're saying about people there, one big one, I remember going to see Bruce Springsteen actually in Thomond Park a number of years ago, and he blew me away. He was non-stop go for 4 hours. I just thought it was one of the most incredible performances I've ever seen. And then I saw a documentary of him, and he was actually tearing up and breaking down in the documentary, speaking about that he feels like he's still going to be caught out, and people are going to say he's not a great singer. So, you know, people we know who we think are phenomenal performance athletes or performance artists, they go through the imposter syndrome. So if you are going through that, you know, just don't feel too bad about it, because we all go through it. And here's some tips for you. Don't fight the inner critic. This only leads to depression, anxiety, and a chaotic mind. Embracing it leads to freedom and fulfillment. And another one is, it's embrace fear. You know, fear is a good thing. It can actually really drive you forward. You know, a lot of the top athletes out there talk about that. It's all about, you know, fear actually drives them in to actually getting the result they want to get. And then accept the fact that you have a resistance to positive change. It's easy to beat ourselves. We've continually standing in our own way. So it's important to just accept the fact that, you know, it's always good to see that there's fear, but the fear comes the change.
Yeah, no, that's true. And how many times have you gone somewhere or done interviews in the past, and you're going, oh God, what if they think this of me, think that of me, and you go in, you do it, you come back out, and you're going, hey, why did I worry so much? Or why did I lose a night's sleep? I didn't need to. It's all over. It's done. You know, I know it's obviously, it could be an important point of your life or an important decision, but at the same time, we have that tendency to say anticipation of fear is worse than fear itself. And I think it is so true. And we have a tendency to, instead of utilizing it, we have a tendency to kind of use it and put it in front of us and create that barrier. So here's a very interesting thing. I suppose if you're looking at it from the point of view of this, we kind of looked at it and we said, look, these are 3 areas that are kind of quite prevalent. And it's basically true, like incremental discipline, for example, the first one, if you look at it. And that really is, if you're looking at, say, for example, even a diet, just to use that as an example, we have a tendency to do things and we want it done straight away, or we'll do an 8-week diet or a nutrition plan or whatever it is, and then after the 8 weeks we kind of park it. That's not good enough in terms of self-mastery. In terms of self-mastery, it's something you do on all the time. It's continual, it keeps flowing, it's that lifestyle change. So anyone who's involved with that process or that path for self-mastery has to align so many different variables to it. And if you look at the second one talks about you know, not allowing yourself to have that creativity. And if you go back to Tatsumoto Musashi, and that was what he started writing poetry, doing drawings. It wasn't all about the seriousness of just the discipline behind the art, but it was like, the problem is with the left and the versus right, what's happening now with technology, and I suppose the sword on top of your technological whatever it is, if you want to look at it there, I'm not even sure what that is. It's kind of some sort of graph, but I thought it was a nice picture because it kind of shows the old and the new, but it also shows the left and the right hand side of the brain. So we're being controlled by technology. It's great. It's a great aid. You know, it's great for your brain in terms of cognitive abilities, and you're been able to do things, and you're being decisive in certain things, and you know, it's quite mechanical in that respect. But then you have the creative side of the brain that we're not taking advantage of, and I think that's something that we need to have and bring together. It brings that lovely yin yang and that nice feeling of unison. And I suppose the last one then is just to learn the value of transferable skills. So what that really is essentially about, we've done many paths in the past, and I know I'm very guilty of it. I've done so many different things now, and I kind of started off in business and business studies and all that kind of thing, and did education stuff and turned down stuff in physical education, and then my life did a full flip. Then my life became all about physical education, and I'm going, why did I bother doing the business? But then all of a sudden it came back on itself. So sometimes by doing things you can line them nicely up, and not everything you do in life is written off, but to look at the better parts of it and to try and pick out the best things that you have in it. So true skill and knowledge cannot be learned. Okay, here we go.
So magnificent dance of our own creation. We must observe, blend, and redirect. And you know, the picture there, Jason is in the picture, so it would actually be, I do no justice. Let the man speak because he's in the picture, because I think this is a really, really good slide.
Yeah, it was taken there a while back, about 5-6 years ago. You know what? It's I suppose practicing martial arts all my life. I again looking at it, how can you apply this to the business world? And I remember doing an assignment on it for college, and we talked about dealing with people, dealing with emotion, dealing with your feelings, making those connections. So one of the major things in martial arts is, and in particular Aikido and Jujitsu and all that, it's not about resistance, and we spend a lot of our time, it's like two bulls fighting and smashing horns, or two stags and they're smashing horns. We don't want that. We want to be able to flow and move with it, and being able to manipulate that right around, and to be able to move it in the direction we all want to go in. So it becomes a win-win situation rather than a win-lose. Because there's no winners really, even if there is a loser in it, you know, because someone feels bad or someone gets lost in that process. And this is a lovely way of looking at things, and it's a lovely way of finding a nice balance between the two. The social jiu-jitsu side of thing is quite interesting. The social jiu-jitsu is we spend a lot of our time grappling and wrestling almost with our thoughts, with our emotions, and with other people. When you move from one person to the next person, you have a different way of speaking to them. When you talk to family members, you talk to colleagues, you talk to partners, you talk to children. We all have a different way of communicating. Every single time you constantly change how you're speaking to someone. But also the information, example, you might get someone close to you might say something, and it could be very trivial, and it has a way of pushing your buttons. You could say the same thing could be said to you by a work colleague, and it just straight over your head, and you don't see it in the same way. So social jiu-jitsu, we spend a lot of our time delving into that and looking at it. So your thoughts are constantly taking you into the future and the past, and the problem is we don't stay in the here and now. So we're constantly comparing ourselves to what we did in the past, our past experiences, and the future then also is something we're trying to imagine the future. We don't have control of what the future is. We only have control of that process. So it's really, you know, to be aware of the fact that you can't control that result, but you can help the process along the way. So like I said earlier.
And here's some tips in as well when it comes to all that. It's all about continual practice. When you think about what Jason just touched on there, like you're always looking to see how can you improve yourself and how you can actually, you know, I love the way you talk about the dance and the flow and over and back with people, because that's key when it comes to, you know, whether it could be in an argument, it could be in a personal discussion or it could be in a business discussion. Try and look at it as a win-win situation rather than running and being very dogmatic with your, you know, what you want to get from it. Try and put yourself into the other person's shoes as well. And it's very important. It's like that ebb and flow, that dance with somebody. And then find the pain points, understand the outcome and connect them together. You've got to dig deep. So if you can find where the pain points are, whether that be with a loved one, whether that be with a business colleague, or even whether that be with yourself, if you can find the pain points, you can always try and in and find a solution to whatever might be going on for the person. And then stay present in the here and now. Constantly remind yourself that in order to create a better future, your decision now affects it. So always have that in your mindset. Whatever decision, you know, you are going to create and bring into your life, always try and visualize that and see it already coming into place and into perspective. And again, it comes back to the first one. You're always continually practicing this.
Yeah, exactly. And I was actually going to say that, and that's good that you highlighted that. I think continual practice is everything. And we'll talk about it in a few minutes about the virtual dojo. It's almost like you have that constant. You got to put things in place and visualize how some of the outcomes are going to be, and practice those continually. And it is a continual practice. Discernment. Okay, so discernment is a very interesting one, and discernment is that decision that we make and how to choose and choose between it and making that right decision. And going back to what Declan said about that choice you make in the tip in the previous slide, it was essentially down to, I suppose, whatever I decide right now is going to affect what I do today, tomorrow, and the future. So it's been able to almost have an outer body experience and put yourself in that situation and look at it from an outside view looking in. So you'll always see it when people are watching a boxing match or anything like that, or even a rugby match, and they're giving advice almost to the players, or giving advice to the boxers, and because you're looking at it from an outside view. Being in that moment, it's very chaotic, and it becomes very difficult to manipulate all of those thoughts and those processes. You can really only deal with one thing at a time. And we have a thing in martial arts called randori. It's called multiple attack. And the randori is a very interesting process. It's designed to move through gracefully from one person to the next, and to be able to manipulate as you're going through, and utilize each individual and their weaknesses, and to be able to manipulate that and use it for your positive, so your stuff. From a life's point of view, again, going back to the whole social jiu-jitsu aspect of it, it's all about you taking a problem, one problem that you have, deal with that, move to the next, move to the next. But what we do is we look at all these problems, they're coming in from all over, and we're seeing all of the static instead of simply seeing the one image that we need to work on. So you focus on that, move to the next, move to the next, because having all of these things going on, it can really cause havoc in your life and cause chaos. Mm. So I think if you just look at the last one here, and it says, when you choose forgiveness, compassion, and truth, you move into your mastery. And I think that's something as well. Sometimes the choices that we do make may be the wrong ones at the time, but they may benefit us in the future. And you need to find the learning in those, and you need to be able to forgive yourself, and you need to step back and start asking the right questions to yourself. The more you get a greater in depth and more greater knowledge of who you are as an individual and how you can move forward.
And this one here, I absolutely love this one, 4 levels of mastery. I learned about this a number of years ago from a guy called Kevin Trudeau, actually. And it's very, very, it's common sense, but not common practice, where unconscious incompetence, you've got conscious incompetence, conscious competence, and then unconscious competence. It's like a tongue twister. But in a simple layman's language, if you think back to when you actually started driving a car, and you think about it, you sat into the car and you were nervous, and it's like, that's like the first level where you're like, what do I need to do here? You're trying to figure out what you need to do. That's unconscious incompetence, where you're completely incompetent at the skill and don't know anything about it. So you're like, okay, I need to learn what I need to do here. And then you go into the second level, which is the conscious incompetence, where you know what you need to know and you know what you need to do, and then you try to learn what it is, and you go to the third level where you're like, okay, I need to put it into first gear, clutch, second gear, clutch, third gear, and then you go into the next level, which is the unconscious competence, where you just sit into your car now, hopefully now, and you're able to just drive it without even having to think, where you just automatically do. And this can apply to so many things that you're doing in your life. There could be, like Jason touched on earlier on about, you know, new, whatever it might be, new things you're going into, new opportunities or whatever it might be. It's always nerve-wracking at the start, but then when you start learning the different levels, the 4 levels of mastery, it just becomes unconscious competence.
Yeah, so if we look at some of the tips in terms of that, I think the 4 levels of mastery is something that, as Declan said, it can be quite common sense, but at the same time, it's something I suppose we need to be cognizant of and kind of keep reminding ourselves, and every time asking ourselves where we fit into that, those competencies. So look at the tip number 1 for think of one skill or behavior you're trying to improve. So go back again to what I said earlier on in terms of ask yourself the question and keep asking yourself questions. What stage of consciousness or competence, Michael, I'm like hurtling in. I know, yeah, I said that a few times when you're drunk. So yeah, it's you know, it's something you need to do, and I have found myself, and I know Declan, and we've talked about this quite a bit ourselves. It's about just disengaging yourself a small bit, looking at your weaknesses. So again, look, tip number 2 is to accept the criticism, to take it as something positive, to criticize yourself a little, but at the same time, look for your good points as well, and learn what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and so on and so forth. And it's always about continually upskilling and learning and adding to it all the time. You're continually adding to your skill base. At the time, it may not seem of any prevalence to you. You might learn a language. You could have learned it 4 or 5 years ago. You could have spent time living abroad, and now suddenly, all of a sudden, you have a client who's Spanish, and you have a few words that you can speak, and boom, now you've jumped into this. It'll take you to another level, and it sets you aside from somebody else. The problem with people is they get so confused. They're not sure about where there's the cutoff. But there really isn't when it comes to self-mastery, and that's why we say it's quite hard. You're always on that journey and always trying to better yourself and upskill.
So number 4 is all in. It's no surprise that the samurai warrior had to be courageous, but courage is more about, it's more, you know, they went into battle and they were like their own death. They knew they were probably going to die. But to be truly courageous means to face your life as a whole with the confidence necessary to overcome your challenges. So when you think about it, you have to be all in. So it's no matter what it is you're doing, look at it, am I all in on this? Because once you commit and go, okay, I'm all in, the people, circumstances, and the situations will start to come in and mold around you when you make the commitment to yourself that you're all in.
Yeah, and it's something we've used and speaking to teams and so on and so forth. If you imagine yourself in a battlefield, and the only interest you have is the attack, forget everything else. And the samurai had that in mind. They were at ease with death, they were at ease with everything else, and they had only one job, and that was the job they focused in on, was to go in and do the attack. This can be applied to sports, it can be applied to business. It's a very powerful image to be put in your head, and you go in, you command the room. If you're inside in a meeting and you need to set those intentions and you have something you need to get through, you need to go in with that plan of attack, and that's all you focus in on. Don't deviate from it. Don't worry about what somebody's thinking. Don't worry about what happened to you in the past. Don't worry about the future. Deal with it now. This is what's happening. This is the present, and you can only control that. So when you commit, you truly commit, and you must be all in. So yeah, and I mean, it goes back to what we were saying earlier on. If you practice it in the training ground or in the virtual dojo, it's what you're going to replicate in real life, in real time.
So staying in control. So awareness, to be aware is to be present, to live in this moment. Witness your thoughts, emotions, actions, and the world with no attachment. So that's the key, is to be aware of what's going on around you, but trying our best not to be attached to the situation.
Yeah, so you have awareness, honor, self-control, consistent practice, and enter your virtual dojo. So like Declan spoke there about the awareness. So the honor is to be, I suppose, not just to honor someone else and to look up to someone else. You need to look at yourself and start living your story and start honoring you as an individual as well. And we forget that quite a lot. And to be in self-control then, it's just simply look at the journey and the process and to follow through on your goals and to set them in and to be productive and have, like we spoke about it in the past, about being productive and having, time set aside for you to do things and allocating certain times to do those things rather than bogging yourself down the entire day with one task and nothing else is getting done. So you're not aligning everything up. You need to have a plan in place and be productive. And we have a little giveaway at the end anyway, so that Declan can talk about that in a few minutes.
And the consistent practice in is to try and understand that lasting transformation doesn't happen in a moment. It requires continual practice and consistency. That is so important. It's to be consistent with whatever practice and whatever it is you want to develop yourself in. And then enter the virtual dojo, like Jason was just talking about. That really is about getting into your own mind and visualizing and seeing outcomes that you want to create and bring into your life and already feeling as if they've already happened and taken place. That's the key when it comes to visualization, is to actually see it already taken place, but feel it within yourself already happened. So cultivate physical energy. No matter what road to mastery you walk, you need a healthy reserve or physical energy to help manage stress, overcome resistance, and follow through. So it's important to look at that. It's key to be physically well, and how you do that is through, nutrition, through diet, through posture, through breathing. We're big into the breathing exercises, all those different things. So if you even think about a samurai warrior going into battle, they are fully equipped and are physically healthy and mentally healthy.
Yeah, so willpower is another important point of this slide, just to concentrate on that. We only have a certain amount of it, and there's only a certain amount in the tank. And I think this is why we need to be able to recharge, reset, step back, and then power back in. If you don't rest and recover, you're going to end up burning out. And this is what we were talking about, the whole chaos approach. That randori where you have a multiple attack and you see all these people coming at you, you go, oh my God, what's going to happen? And when you experience it for the first time, we do a couple of these exercises with people when we're doing live groups and stuff like that, and they're great fun. People get great enjoyment out of it, and nobody gets hurt. It's quite fun. It's quite entertaining, and it's like a dance in a lot of respects. But you start to realize you can navigate through life quite smoothly, quite easily, and literally get out of your own way and get out of the issues that are being faced in front of you. But physicality, minding yourself, being ready to go forward in the day is vital.
And our last set of tips then is to get out and move. Take time to reflect. So it's so important, like Jason was just talking about there. It's key. Get out and move the body, because when you move the body, you're getting the oxygen up to the brain. You're getting the good endorphins, the feel-good factor around the body. Do something completely fun and enjoyable. Laugh more. There's even a thing called laughter or yoga. Do something that makes you feel good, and then take your health seriously and factor it into your plan. And then last but not least, align everything up: family, friends, work, colleagues, health, exercise, rest, sleep. And it's something that people say try and get the work-life balance. Really, is there such a thing? Because there's so many things you're trying to juggle, especially with what's going on nowadays where there's so much uncertainty. But it's trying your best to line up certain things that will move you forward and have you feeling good.
Yeah, there's a lot of alignment, and Declan's right in saying that it's not really about work-life balance. It's really about aligning everything up. And we go back to the very start, we talked about upskilling. It's about, all the things you've done in the past, they'll all start to align nicely. And you take the best of it all the time. And Bruce Lee was famous for that. He used to talk about, you take the best of all of the martial arts, all the systems, the boxing, the wrestling, the whole lot, and you piece it all together and you make a system that works and suits you. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to have to look at what you've done throughout your life, piece it all together and move forward and get rid of those blockers, those things that are stopping you from being the best you can be.
And our last slide is be okay with losing and negativity. Apply the samurai mindset. Think of a battle, let go of what happens and focus on attacking. That might sound very aggressive, but you know, when you think about it, what it means by focusing on attacking is, what is it you're focusing on? What are you focusing on attacking in that day or in that moment? You know, and then you've got a focus that you can actually put your mind to it and then make it happen, whatever it might be. So don't let your emotions dictate your outcomes. So that's another powerful thing, is like, we all get run by our emotions, but try not to let that dictate your outcome. And then slow down, take a breath, then make a decision. So that's a key thing that we always talk about, is sometimes you got to slow down in order to speed up. And in order to do that, sometimes you got to come back to your breath, relax, do what we call as a brain dump, where you're emptying your mind, put it on paper, and then that can help you actually navigate where you want to do and where you want to go in your day. And that kind of leads nicely into our last slide, which is, we want to give you a gift today, where what we have is a one-page productivity sheet where people can actually download this sheet and actually utilize this and, you know, put it to practice. You know, where you might be like most people out there, where you have one list for this, you have a notebook for that, you have a sticky pad here, where what we've created is, we've got a one-page productivity sheet where you can put your things to do list on one section, your calls, your texts, your emails on another section. And then on the right side is your time planner, where you can actually block where you want to actually get things done. So it'll actually help you with your self-mastery. And how you can get this is, you just need to go to KD Corporate Wellness, go to the website. When you go there, you'll see there's a login section in the menu bar. And when you go in there, all you need to do is put in ICBE Mastery. So that's ICBE Mastery, and you'll automatically get this free gift into your inbox.
Yeah, and if you have any issues, just maybe just email us, or and we can get on and get a sorted. And that ICBE Mastery is all capitals as well.
So if there's any questions there on, if you can hear us.
Great, thank you very much. There's a lot to ponder in that. I wonder when I go into my next meeting with a samurai sword, how they respond, whether they'll understand. It'll be a long. We now have about 2 minutes left for any questions. Can I just start off saying, well, a lot of the stuff that you spoke about, people will be a bit familiar with on the work side, because some of those practices will have been absorbed into continuous improvement process and visualization processes that people use in their work life, and especially in the manufacturing sector. But then when we do look at ourselves, we often don't implement those. And I just have a question about what you described, you know, very simple and complicated at the same time. And I'd just be really curious how long, or from the movement from your old way of thinking to kind of the new way of thinking, and that kind of alignment, was that over a couple of months, over a couple of years? Is it something that people can do quite fast, or is it you get change quickly and then it's a lifetime of practice after that?
I think what happens a lot of the time is we end up having an experience and an almost a light bulb moment. And I think what happens with a lot of us is, because we're unaware of it, or it hasn't been pointed out to us, or we haven't come across it, we navigate through life in that unconscious incompetence, as we spoke about earlier on. I think to be able to make that transition, something needs to happen, or like a day like today, where people start talking about self-mastery, and you kind of go, oh, what is this self-mastery and how does this happen? And I think the process kind of starts then. I think then you start to look at different aspects of your life. But the problem is, you'll do today and then you might walk away and forget about it. And this is why we encourage people to enter the virtual dojo and take a step back. And the reason why we're giving all these kind of acronyms and images, and you know, trying to force people to kind of think about the samurai and even attacking. You know, Declan was talking about attacking. It's not even about attacking, it's about attacking your day. What's the first thing you're going to do in the morning? How are you going to start your day, and how are you going to finish your day? You know, you move through each moment. And every time you do something, you kind of appreciate in that moment, but you're taking a step back. So it's a continual improvement of self, and it's a continual improvement of upskilling and looking at the skills you've already done and applying them to life, and how I can take this and use this now. And I think that's probably what has happened for most people anyway.
Great. Can I just ask another question around, I'm particularly struck by this idea of the creativity and, you know, by how much in work, you know, we're strained when we're attached to computers so often and we're using just one side of the brain. And should that when we're looking to kind of at things that can increase their creativity, with something artistic or whatever, should that be something people seek to do in their personal lives, or should they be trying to bring that into the work lives as well? You know, if you're caught doing oil painting when you're supposed to be working 9 to 5, it might not go down that well. Can that balance be achieved by doing things outside work to balance work, or can that creativity be brought into the work side as well?
You should definitely try and bring it into both. Like it's something that should be, when it comes to balance, that should be one thing you should be focusing on balancing, is try and bring the creativity both into your work environment and into your business and workforce environment. And you know, it's all about, again, it's all about setting an intention and being clear about what it is you want to have in that creative process. So whatever it could be in work, you might be struggling, or you might be, you know, have a block, a mental block and moving forward, or whatever it could be in work. Sometimes you got to remove yourself from the situation, whatever it is. And that could be just going for a quick 2-3 minute walk, taking a few deep breaths, and then reframing and asking yourself positive questions like, where's the solution to what's going on here? And you know, when you reframe stuff and ask yourself empowering questions, you'll start to become more creative, and you'll start to see solutions in problems. And that can be transferred as well into the personal life, where you could be having a problem at home. Rather than zoning in and focusing on the problem, again, take yourself away from this problem, remove yourself from the situation, take a few deep breaths and ask yourself empowering questions. Like whatever it could be, ask yourself something that will give a positive solution. Because once you embed into your mind something that is positive and you ask for a solution to that problem, 9 times out of 10 you'll get a solution to that problem, or something will pop up the following day or 2 or 3 days later and you'll go, oh, I have the answer, instead of just zoning in and not letting the creative juices flow.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, I mean, you can take the creativity side of things. We're talking about meetings and so on. Like, what's to stop you taking a meeting outside, and especially in times of good weather and so on and so forth, and walk and talk, have, I mean, even networking and meeting with people, just to walk and talk rather than sitting at a table and trying to battle it out. It's amazing how people start to relax and start to become more human rather than these robots. And sometimes that creative side of things, it can be very powerful. Also looks at, I suppose you're looking at then of if you want to do something else in terms of emotions and feelings and fear and so on like that. It's nice sometimes to even ask people to draw them and how they see it represented. To write stuff on a piece of paper and just write at the start of a meeting, just like, guys, write down your negative thoughts, negative things, what you don't want to happen today, whatever. Look at them, analyze them, and when you've taken that out of your head and you put it in a piece of paper, it's a very nice way of saying, well, look, you know what, I can now crumple this up and I can fire it away. Let's get ready to start. But it's a nice way of almost having your own self-counseling and all your own self-check-in, and that, I think that's really important.
Right, thanks very much. So yeah, that's a really nice way of kind of integrating into work. I haven't thought about that at meetings. I suppose the problem about a lot of these techniques is that, you know, once you implement them, you see the result of them and you understand why you implement them. So my question now is there a natural first step for people who have heard what you said today, are interested, but, you know, it seems either too far or, you know, they need to dig deeper? Is there any one natural step they should take now? Is it go back and read the book that you referenced at the beginning, or is there any one thing that you should tell people that they could do today?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, the best start for today for anyone is to have a look at that productivity sheet. It's going to give you a great insight. It's going to give you a great start and great tips to get you going and get you, I suppose, on the right path. Certainly you can certainly look into the Book of 5 Rings by Tatsumoto Musashi. It's a hard read, and sometimes people find it difficult to interpret it. and remember, it was written in the 17th century, so, and it was like, what, 350 years ago or more, whatever it was. And there was no digital technology and all that kind of thing then, so there's a different way of looking at it. But there are some nice YouTube videos, there's some nice, I suppose, websites that kind of incorporate a lot of what the book is about, and you can kind of get a more modern 21st century look at how you can apply that to your life. But certainly, I suppose the most basic of stuff is to look at your health, look at your well-being, look at your, am I rested? Am I physically okay? How's my energy? Have I had good sleep? You know, am I well hydrated? Is my food good? And now give me a task, give me something to do. I'm ready. I'm firing all cylinders. And there's no point having a Ferrari parked in your garden and you putting cooking oil into it. You know, you look great, but you know that's not good. You just gotta really encompass everything. You gotta embrace everything that's around you. And I think that's probably the best thing to do. And give yourself some time slots that you get those things done in.
Yeah.
Great, and I suppose by going through the process, we see how alien it feels or how intuitive it can feel once we try to embrace it. Thank you very much, Jason and Declan. I think I'll be taking a shortcut and watching The Last Samurai again with Tom Cruise and see what I can learn from that. The video and slides from today will be uploaded to the ICBE website later on today. And many thanks to everyone who attended, and look forward to seeing you next week for the Power of Exercise on June the 15th at 10 a.m. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you so much.
Look forward to seeing you again. Bye.
Bye. Bye.